Hi there, everyone. Welcome to Make It With Me Monday for October 14th. This one is pre-recorded. I am at Sam's orchestra concert tonight, so I'm not with you live, but I will return live next week. So in the meantime, enjoy what I've got going on here for you. Just a couple quick reminders of some of the specials that are still going in October. The kids collection is up to 30% off, so make sure that you go check those out and see if there are any kits you want to get personally, or maybe you want to have something for a Christmas gift for someone with the holidays coming up. These would be great things to gift to the crafty people in your life. And then, of course, the starter kit, the best kit ever, according, that we put out there, basically. This month you get an extra $30 in it, so $155 worth of product for only $99. If you wanted to ask me questions, I would be happy to explain a little bit about that and what happens when you join the InkSpot team, even if it's just to get some really great product for a lot cheaper than you're used to getting it. That, of course, goes again through the end of the month. And if you go to my website and hit join, there's going to be more information there and the paperwork to get you started and all that kind of stuff. And I'm absolutely happy to talk that through with anyone and all who are interested in learning a little bit more about that incredible kit promotion. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with our project for tonight. So we've got a piece of cardstock that is 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. I am going to be using basic beige for mine. Then you needed 3 strips, all 5.5 inches long. One of them 1.5 inches, 2 of them 1 1/4 wide. These are going to be used vertically down your card if that makes a difference for what you are doing as far as what DSP you picked. So the 5.5 is your height and the other ones are your width. And it's any combination you want. Do you want 3 different cardstocks? Do you want 3 different designer series papers? Do you want a lot of them the same? Do you want a combination of the 2? This is Cook's choice. They're all going to turn out awesome and different based on what you are choosing for those 3 pieces of paper that you've got going on. So I can't wait to see what you're using. Mine are going to be 2 I have actually a little bit of everything. So from the I'm losing track of my DSP selection. Splendid Autumn. There we go. I knew Autumn was in the title. Splendid Autumn designer series paper. I have 1 strip, and then I also used the back side, which has this crushed curry pattern on it. So my widest strip is that crushed curry pattern, and then I have a narrower strip of the autumn leaf design, and then I have just plain piece of crushed curry cardstock. So I'm using a little bit of each. So I have cardstock and something that almost looks like cardstock, and then of course a very obviously patterned DSP going on there. All right, then I asked you to find a neutral piece. That's 1.5 by 2.5. This is what we are going to be stamping on, whether you're doing just images or images and phrases, whatever you want to do. This is the one that we're going to be decorating. And then some narrow ribbon. I grabbed this awesome cream ribbon that's in the online store, and it's almost velvety or suede-like, really pretty, very soft, and really easy to work with. And then some kind of little embellishments, or you could make little tiny focal points up to about 1/2 inch in size or so. I grabbed the faux glass dots, which are in the mini catalog on page 37 as part of this Splendid Autumn, there we go, Splendid Autumn is awesome collection. So they're Cajun Craze, Mossy Meadow, Wild Wheat, and Copper Clay. Beautiful pattern of fall colors. I'm going to be using some of these on my card tonight as well. All right, so let's go ahead and do our design here. I'm going to bring in just a piece of cardstock under because I'm going to be stamping something that's going to go off the edge of my piece there, and I don't want to get the ink on my my backdrop paper here. I grabbed Changing Leaves. This is in the online store, has a hybrid embossing folder that goes along with it. So that means you emboss, you die cut, other dies, really awesome collection of product for fall. Very interesting script idea, or different fonts in here. I love when they do a little bit of everything there. And the teeny tiny print is just adorable. For those of us though needing glasses, make sure you hold that just right so you can read that. I'm going to be using this large leaf pattern here just to create a background on my vanilla And I'm going to use Versamark. So what it's just going to do is it's just going to darken up my paper just a tiny bit. Now, normally, Versamark we use as it's a little bit sticky, and we use it in our heat embossing because it's going to hold those embossing powders on there. I'm just going to add a little bit of leaf pattern to my cardstock. When you use Versamark ink just by itself, all it's going to do is darken up the paper. And I'm not really sure if you're going to be able to see it here or if it's going to show up more in the photos. But there's a very, very subtle now shiny leaf pattern to it. Maybe it'll show up a little bit better. Let me add it to this crushed curry piece as well. You might see it a little bit better with that darker cardstock happening. But like I said, we also use Versamark in our heat embossing to bring out, it'll hold the embossing powder for you when you go and before you heat that up, you put that on there with your Versamark ink. All right, let's go a little bit deeper on that. And let's see if you can see that. It's again, very, very subtle. There, I think hopefully that kind of captures it. So it's going to be very, very subtle, even more subtle than if I took crushed curry ink and stamped it directly. It's even more subtle than that. So it's something I just want to have a hint of in the background of what I've got going on. All right, so there's that piece right there. I'm going to go back in. First, we're going to cover up my Versamark ink. I'm going to go back in with my phrase now in my crushed curry. I have the phrase here that says, "A little note to brighten your day." And I'm going to put that right over my leaves. So there we go. A little note to brighten your day. All right, I'm going to take away that now so we can get back to our pretty wood pattern behind us. All right, go ahead and grab that card base. Again, I'm working with Basic Beige, one of my new favorite colors and one of my favorite new neutrals as well. I love that it's a kind of like a step between of the vanilla and maybe like the crumb cake for depth of color, I would say. Love working with Basic Beige. Okay, grab those 3 pieces of paper that you have. You're going to start with your widest one. And then the second piece we're actually going to put on is going to be the one that you want to have on the right side. So this is how the layout's going to be basically. You're going to have them going left to right. Your widest piece goes to the left. You could, of course, change that up depending on what you're doing. That's one of the different ways you could lay these guys down, is to change. So you can see where that piece came from. It's actually, there we go. If I put them together, they would look like that. All right, so I'm going to start with my widest piece. And you're going to leave the tiniest of borders along the edge, okay? So when I'm lining it up, like I said, the tiniest of borders is going to go on the edge of that. And then I'm going to take the piece that I want in the 3rd position. Going to do the same thing, little adhesive down the back. We're going to line that up with the other edge, same way we did this. The tiniest of borders is going to happen there, like so. Whoop. There we go. And then, as you may have guessed, that other piece is going to go right in between them, and you're going to basically split the difference of what you see in there. And you're going to have just the tiniest of borders showing on both edges of this one now as well. And if you notice what I did when I wanted to make sure, as I lined up the bottom edges of all of them flush, and that way if I open it, I can look and I can see there's just a little bit I need to trim off. So if you start all of them on one edge, you'll have that much better, be able to, trimming off parts will be easier because you can just go along the same edge if you have them cut just a little bit different. Because, even though we try, 5.5 inches isn't always the same cut every time we go to make it. You might have a just slightly different spot on your paper trimmer or whatever you did. Okay, so there is my card base. This is a really neat way to show off some of these scenic DSPs that we have. You can focus in on just a little bit of it like I did here. And later I will show you one where I've had it be the major point of focus for the whole backdrop. All right, going to set that aside for now. Let's go back to our phrase or your image, whatever you put on here. I'm going to add adhesive to the back, and this is where we're going to bring in our ribbon. Now you can decide if you are going to want a lot of ribbon, like maybe going across the whole card, or if you want to just highlight a little bit off the back of your your phrase piece or your image piece like that, okay? So I'm gonna grab my scissors again, and I'm just gonna go ahead and trim. So I have just a tiny bit showing off each edge of that. And like I said, you could make that longer, shorter, whatever you wanna do. That is totally up to you as far as how you want to have your ribbon highlighted. I'm gonna go ahead and attach that down now to my card base. You could use dimensionals here if you wanted to, especially if you have a thicker ribbon or something like that that's gonna have it want to be raised up just a little bit. Now you can decide if you want this to be a less of a, you know, is it front and center? Is it your main focus? Or is it something a little different? I'm gonna go down here a little bit, I think, and just have that be right there. I still like the way my ribbons are. You could trim them up, of course, if you move that around, just to see where you might want it to go. All right, and then you're gonna add some of your embellishments. I think I am going to take the Cajun Craze color. I'm gonna pull out some of the Cajun that's in here. So I'm just gonna pop one of these guys off. And I like to work in threes when you're doing embellishment work. And you wanna kind of create your, you've probably heard me use this phrase before, the visual triangle. So you can see where I'm going with this. So my next one's gonna be something up in this area here. So your eye is gonna be taken across your embellishments around various points of your card, depending on how you're using that. Okay, so that is my faux glass dots on my card. And again, I have just a little subtle stamping in the background, both here and on my crushed curry piece of cardstock. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. I'm trying very carefully not to have them be too loud. All right, let me set that aside. And let's go ahead and start getting into some of our samples. This particular pattern layout I've showed you several times over. This fall season as we approach Halloween. This is actually the backside of 3 different pieces from the Flowering Zinnia DSP, but these are perfect Halloween colors. So you've got your pumpkin pie, your lemon lime twist, and your gorgeous grape. Perfect, perfect, perfect Halloween colors. I used Playful Ghosts, and I used a bunch of the other stamps in it, but not the actual ghosts. So you don't have to see any of those on here, but I've got my pumpkins, I've got my Happy Halloween, and then this cute little bat image with a couple little stars around it. And this time I used my black baker's twine, and I just highlighted a little bit sticking out of each corner. I went back in with my gorgeous grape marker, and I added a couple little doodles to the corners, and as part of my phrase I added the little dots on the end of those. And then I grabbed I'm gonna need to look this up because I forgot what they were called. I know they're shimmer gems, and I forgot to write down which gems they are. They're shimmer gems, and they come in these really cool metallic-y colors. So this is actually a black metallic sparkly kind. So there's a couple here, and again, I'm following that visual triangle. And as you'll notice too, I balanced across this way. So your eye is drawn corner to corner, your eye is drawn around. A really fun way to play with the visual end of how you're doing your layouts here. But again, so here's my Flowering Zinnia DSP. This one is really fun, a fun, bright, gotta love bright for Halloween, right? Okay. On the opposite side of bright, of course, we're going to have very tone on tone here. Now this is the Humble Home bundle that I've used. I'll show you where the bundle part of it comes in just a second. If you took my Humble Home add-on class from our last event for the Sweets in Season event, you've already seen some of this here. So I've used my card base is basic gray. I grabbed the DSP from Country Woods, and I used the exposed brick embossing folder on some smoky slate cardstock for the other pieces. And I did actually brush over all of it with my smoky slate ink on a blending brush. And it's very, very subtle, but it did just add a little more of that slate into my DSP, and it highlighted a few areas of the raised up parts of my embossing folder. And then I have the Welcome Home done in both smoky slate and basic gray. And I grab my smoky slate pearls, and I have this iridescent ribbon in the background of that. And it's not attached under, but it very well could be, but it looks like it's coming off from underneath there, but it's actually just trimmed right to the edge of that piece there. And then if you took that class, like I said, you saw my cute little house that I used the punch for. But I remembered that, and I remembered this DSP, and I put the two together. So I have a Welcome Home with the little house popping up inside. All right, I went back to one of our carryover designer series papers for this one. This one is Lovely and Sweet the die or the stamp set, and then it's Nature's Sweetness designer series papers. I grabbed that has a very pecan pie base to it. So my base here for the card is vanilla, and then everything else is pecan pie related. So I have pecan pie cardstock that I stamped with one of the stamps from the set. I did this one as well with a little bit of pecan pie in the background with that hash mark, that kind of like I don't want to say hash marks, but it looks like maybe a piece of like burlap has been, just a small piece of it, that kind of burlap feeling. That's what I'm getting off of that one. So I added that for dimension in the background of those guys. Die cut out these little flowers. So those are my focal points for this one. And you can see I did a different thing with the ribbon here. I've got it just kind of layering behind like so. And this is from the online store as well. So it's a vanilla ribbon with a little bit of pecan pie stitched right through it. So a very neutral palette on this one, but these gems really kind of do pull it off in the end. They were from the Pecan and Clear Dots, which are also in the online store, but they have this really pretty little shimmer, and they fill the center of those die cut flowers just perfectly. Love them, love them, love them. Okay, then I went to my Mediterranean Blooms designer series paper, and I pulled out the one that has mostly the oranges in it. And I changed, as you can see, I changed the direction of the layout of this one. So this one is a landscape card, not a vertical one. And I did 2 pieces from the designer series paper, and then I have my my Mossy Meadow cardstock here, which I added the painted texture embossing folder to. And this ribbon here is actually the iridescent striped, the silver and white sheer ribbon, but then I colored it with my pumpkin pie, I should say, Stampin' Blend. So that's why it has that orange hue to it, is that I added a little bit of that pecan or pumpkin pie color. We have too many pies going on in our colors, and I keep tripping my tongue over all of those. This phrase comes from Simply Said. I added a border behind it in pumpkin pie just to make that pop off a little bit. And then for my focal points on this one, I actually just fussy cut some of these little orange blossoms out of a couple pieces of the designer series paper to add into those guys right there. And then I wanted to point out too on this one, I forgot to mention, I chose to put this one vertically because the phrase was long, and I wanted the focus of that then to be the length of that, not the width. Let's see, was there any other ones I added? Any other layers too? No, I think everything else. There was ones I popped up, you can see, the changing the direction. This one, again, I did add a border behind my phrase piece as well. Okay, let's go back to the very first one here. This was the on-camera version here, and here's my stepped up one where I said I was going to show you where you could use this to really highlight one of the pieces of designer series paper that has more of a scenic or artistic piece to it, like this. With all of I used the whole thing of trees across there, and I did a couple die cuts as my focal points this time. That comes from the Changing Leaves dies as well. This time I added some of the leaves stamped in basic beige, and then I did a little bit of beige on my blending brush just to kind of take some of the starkness out of those corners. I still have the crushed curry happening for my phrase there, but then I also chose to border that. And again, I changed where I placed it, and it has a little bit more ribbon. Okay, so that's one of the things you can do with that focal point piece is, does it turn into something in the center, really to be the focal point of your card, or is it off to one of the sides like a more of a an accent or something like that? So here again, that's the more of the focal point right in the middle. All right, so let's go back through. Yeah, that was all of them. Wanted to make sure I had all of them pulled out. So again, 3 pieces of paper, whether you have done cardstock or designer series paper, combination thereof. There are ways to dress up your plain cardstock if you want to, either through embossing or by stamping like I did on these 2 here. This is another great use of some of your skinnier scrap type pieces that you might have laying around in certain cuts from your DSP. All right, everybody, that is it for tonight's Make It With Me Monday. I will be back again live next Monday, and I hope to see you then. Have a good one.